My wife slept with her boss and suggested we open our marriage. Then she changed her mind the moment I fell in love with someone else. Hello, everyone. Honestly, I never thought I'd reach a point where I'd be asking for advice from strangers on the internet. But here I am. My wife and I have been together for 10 years and married for 8. We met in college. We were each other's first and only partners. To be truthful, I thought our relationship was unique and beautiful, precisely for that reason. But it seems I was the only one who felt that way. Some time ago, my wife started working at a new company. At first, it was hard for her to fit in because she's always been shy. But after I encouraged her to be more social, she befriended a group of single women from her office. Initially, I was happy she found friends, but then she started going out for drinks and partying with them more and more often. I grew worried about the changes in her behavior and tried to talk to her, but at the same time, I didn't want to be controlling or limit her freedom. This started affecting our intimacy. My wife was never one to take the initiative in bed anyway, but with her constant outings, she was now either too tired or not in the mood. At some point, a new manager joined their department. Apparently, he was quite a hit with both her and her friends. She started mentioning him in passing, but it reached a point where she was constantly praising how he solved various problems and not just work-related ones. I asked her why she was so fascinated by this man, but she just brushed my questions aside. Furthermore, she started asking if I regretted not having experience with other women. I told her no, because she was always enough for me. I swear, for a split second, I saw a flicker of sadness in her eyes, but she quickly changed the subject. Then, she brought up the idea of an open marriage as a way to shake things up in our relationship. I was in total shock. This didn't sound like my wife at all. At first, I categorically refused and asked if this had anything to do with the new manager. She denied it, saying she just felt like she had missed out on a lot in life. But she didn't want to lose me, so this was the safe option. I warned her she was playing with fire, but in the end, out of a mix of reluctance and naivety, I agreed. We set a few rules, the main one being, never bring anyone else to our home. So for an entire year, my wife went on dates and had casual flings. And as if I didn't see it coming, she eventually started seeing that very same manager. On my end, I went on a few dates, but without any one-night stands, because it just felt wrong to me. My wife would occasionally ask if I was doing okay, but she never changed her behavior. At some point, I felt that my love for her, that pure, innocent love, had simply died. It destroyed me inside. Eventually, I went on a date with a stunning girl who had moved here from South Korea. Conversation was effortless. She was witty, and her smile made me forget everything. Naturally, this led to a second date, and then we slept together. To be honest, I had never experienced intimacy like that before. I didn't know a woman could be so attentive and make me feel so desired. At first, my wife thought my dating was cute. But after a few months, she started interrogating me about my mistress. I immediately reminded her that this was her idea and that she was currently in a relationship with the manager I had worried about from the start. She went silent. It seemed like she had something to say, but she didn't dare. She started coming home earlier to cook dinner and clean the house. She began bringing lunch to my office and taking the initiative in the bedroom. Honestly, if it weren't for her open marriage scheme, which I also blame myself for agreeing to, all of this would have made me jump for joy. But I could barely reciprocate. When I did give in to her attempts at closeness, I did it half-heartedly. Something in me had died regarding my wife, and I could see she felt it too. I asked her why the sudden change. She said she wanted to show me how much she loved me and that she was happy with our family life. I couldn't help it. I started laughing. I asked her, "What about your friends? What about your manager lover and all your casual flings?" She didn't answer and just went to sleep in tears that night. The next day, she was waiting for me. She said she wanted to close the marriage, that this whole experience was a terrible mistake, that she regretted everything and wanted us to focus on our relationship again. I told her she had to be honest with me about what drove her to this decision in the first place. Predictably, it was her group of friends. They had encouraged her because of their own numerous flings. And when the manager appeared, to her surprise, He supported that lifestyle. It turned into an emotional affair first and became physical only after our marriage was officially open. She described it as being like a drunk driver in a speeding car, thrilling and intoxicating. Now she realizes she needed something to compare us to see that what we had was truly unique. But now she feels she's destroyed our marriage and any chance at a life together. I told her I might never be able to look at her as my wife again, and she burst into tears. I just held her silently while she sobbed until she fell asleep in my arms on the couch. Since then, she's quit her job, cut all contact with those friends and the manager, and even declared she's ready to spend the rest of her life making it up to me just to be a real wife again. But I haven't cut ties with my mistress yet. To be honest, she makes me feel like a man, like I can move mountains. My wife hasn't given me that feeling in a long time. Truthfully, I don't know what to do. I'd love to get that special feeling back if it's even possible, but my mistress literally saved me when I was at my lowest. Please help me. Oh, I almost forgot. In a few hours, we have our first marriage counseling session. I don't know how it will go. Edit. I didn't expect such a response. Thank you all for the support. I'll definitely post an update about the therapy session, but for now, let me answer a few questions. First, my mistress is single, and she knows about the open marriage. Second, my intentions regarding the marriage are unclear. As much as I love my wife, I can't trust her. But at the same time, I can't just throw away all our years together. That's why I agreed to therapy, to see if I can reach a sane decision. Third, I never asked to see my wife's phone. I didn't want to see actual photos of her with another man. My mental images were bad enough. Real photos would have destroyed me completely. I forgot to mention, this morning when I came out of the shower, I saw my wife holding my phone, shaking silently as she read an incoming message. I just took the phone from her and said nothing. The message was from my mistress. Good morning, handsome. I slept in your t-shirt last night because I miss waking up next to you. I miss your morning kisses. This seemed to hit her very hard. Since then, she's been following me everywhere. She even went for a run with me, and she's never run a day in our entire relationship. My mistress and I met on a night when my wife was out on yet another date. I was leaving a bookstore. That's where I spent my evenings when this all started. I saw a man harassing a woman. When he grabbed her arm and spun her around, I instinctively intervened. I do judo. I didn't do anything major, but I accidentally dislocated his wrist while holding him back. It turned out she had gotten him fired for harassment, and he was seeking revenge. She insisted on buying me a coffee to thank me, and I agreed. Regarding her reaction to the open marriage, at first she was hesitant. She didn't want to be a homewrecker, but once she heard about my wife's actions, she threw caution to the wind. Now I have two versions of the story I could tell my grandkids. I saved your grandma from a villain, and she fell into my arms. Or, your grandma once took a gap year to try out a bunch of guys, and I, her husband, was apparently okay with it. The psychologist seemed pleasant and experienced. She looked unbiased and genuinely willing to help. Though it was our first session, my wife took the opportunity to lay out the whole story. She admitted her friends made her wonder if she was missing out on life since she married her first boyfriend. Most of those friends, mind you, are divorcees, and none of them are currently married. The therapist pointed out how destructive such influences can be on a marriage. My wife agreed and added that when the manager appeared, her friends egged her on to see what would happen, claiming it was a chance to explore herself. My wife said she felt guilty, but one of the divorced friends suggested the open marriage loophole, saying it makes some couples stronger. So she convinced me and plunged into the adventure. It was intoxicating, but had no real meaning. Then she started doubting her motives. She said she saw the pain in my eyes, but told herself it was just an adventure. She says she'll never forgive herself. She didn't realize the scale of what was happening until she saw the change in me. She thought that since I started dating too, I would eventually come to terms with it. But everything changed when my mistress became a permanent part of my life. Apparently, I started smiling for no reason again. My eyes lit up when I got a text. I'd leave the room happily to take a call. She says she felt like she'd been punched in the gut and started having panic attacks. She went to those friends for advice, but they just told her this was a normal reaction for a husband in such a situation. But when that same divorced friend said, "It looks like his mistress actually makes him happy," that's when reality hit her. The thought that another woman was giving me joy made her physically ill to the point of fainting. She realized how absurd it all was and begged her friends to help her get me back. But they just said, "If it's so hard for you, why did you propose an open marriage in the first place?" She realized then that these women were toxic and a threat to her entire life. That's why she rushed to win me back. I didn't say much, but I informed the therapist that I still have a mistress. The therapist said no solution would be found while the mistress is still in the picture and suggested another session in 2 days. She also added that it's rare for people to stay with their first partner for so long, and she hopes to make us a success case. Edit. What do I mean when I say my mistress makes me feel like a man? When I have a hard day, I'm met not with cold indifference, but with a warm hug. She's ready to listen. When I have insecurities, she convinces me that nothing is out of reach. And perhaps this sounds sexist, and I apologize, she lets me be the man in the relationship. My mistress believes women are meant to do what men cannot: gentleness and compassion. She thinks her soft heart can calm a raging volcano, some Korean proverb. She wants to take charge in the bedroom, but never belittles me or invades my space where I need autonomy. It might sound like sexism, but I think it's just the difference between Eastern and Western cultures. I moved into an apartment owned by my brother. He offered it for free, but I insisted on paying a small rent. Now, about what I found out during the second session. I asked the questions you guys suggested. First, are you sure there was no physical intimacy before we opened the marriage? She looked down and begged me not to make her say it, because she knew once she did, everything would crumble. But I insisted. She admitted there was no direct contact, but they had performed acts in front of each other. That scumbag manager convinced her that since it wasn't full intercourse, it wasn't technically cheating. I was in shock. My wife started shaking and hyperventilating, sobbing on the floor, grabbing my legs and begging for forgiveness. Even the therapist looked stunned. Second, I asked what changed her mind about the manager. She said that once she started distancing herself from that group of friends, he started acting differently toward her. One day, passing his office, she overheard him talking about her to another colleague. He said he was surprised how easily he snared her and that she was proof that still waters run deep. When asked if he actually liked her, he said she was just a pleasant distraction and he had no intention of leaving his fiancée. He even said he felt sorry for me, but strike while the iron is hot. My wife realized she was just a piece of meat to him and that she had betrayed me for cheap thrills. She said she felt like she was going to be sick, ran to the parking lot, and vomited. Her only thought was, what have I done? Then I asked if she ever loved him or when she stopped loving me. She looked me in the eye and said she never stopped loving me. And honestly, that made me feel even worse. She said he was just something different. She thought it was love, but now she sees how foolish it was. She begged me to move away with her and start over with a clean slate. I told her that wouldn't be fair to my mistress and that I needed time away from her, my wife, to process everything. She had a breakdown, crying hysterically and saying incoherent things. It took a long time to calm her down. The therapist supported my decision to live separately for a while. Unfortunately, it didn't end there. When I went home to pack, her laptop rang, a video call from one of her former friends. The friend was in tears. It turns out, after my wife quit, this friend started her own fling with that manager. But her period was late, and he lost his mind. Even worse, this colleague had a boyfriend she actually saw a future with. The boyfriend found the texts about the pregnancy and dumped her. She was calling my wife for advice. I just turned around and left. Thank you to everyone who shared their stories. A lot has happened. That friend who thought she was pregnant? It was a false alarm at first, but she actually was pregnant. Due to the stress of losing her boyfriend and the public humiliation, she had a miscarriage. She went feral and decided to destroy the manager. She took all the evidence to the higher ups. I got curious about his fiancée and found her on Facebook. She's a sweet girl from a small town, a teacher for children with special needs. I couldn't understand why a man like him would marry someone like her just to go cheating everywhere. One of life's mysteries. That former friend contacted me. She wanted my side of the story to help her case against the manager. When I saw her, she looked broken. Dark circles, red eyes. She apologized for her role in my wife's adventure. She didn't try to shift the blame. She said that losing her child and her partner changed her completely. She can't look in the mirror without disgust. Meeting me was a form of self-punishment for her. She confirmed that since office relationships were against the rules and he was in a management position, he would likely be fired and blacklisted. I went back to my old house to pick up some things when I thought my wife wouldn't be there. She was. She had spread out all our wedding photos on the table. She tried to hug me. I pulled away. She offered me lunch. I said I wasn't hungry. She showed me a message she got from the manager's new number. He was cursing her out. It turns out my wife helped that friend expose him. She told me they hoped that revealing the secret would give us a chance to save our marriage. I told her I appreciated her courage, but it changed nothing. I told her I was stopping family therapy to focus on individual therapy. She cried quietly and said she understood. I thought I'd feel joy or anger, but I just feel numb. I know it's not normal, which is why I want to deal with it in individual therapy. On my brother's advice, I've already seen a divorce lawyer to be ready for anything. I have no desire to fight for this marriage right now. Before I left, she tried one last time to initiate intimacy. When I refused, she started screaming, "What does your mistress give you that I can't? How is she better than me?" She yelled so loud, the neighbors surely heard that she was ready to do whatever I wanted. I just shook my head and told her that if she still didn't understand after everything that happened, then everything was clear to me. And I left. Thank you for watching until the end. Write your opinion in the comments. To me, this is just more proof that open marriages almost always end in failure. Do you agree? Check out our previous videos here. Good luck.